What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Bogey Proof. We got myself, Mike, and Erik on the line tonight to do a little season recap, both of our own personal seasons, kind of reset on our goals we made this year, and wrap up kind of the PGA Tour season as it comes to an end with the President's Cup and all that fun stuff, and give our thoughts on that as well. But as we always do, gentlemen, let's start off with where we are calling from and what we're sipping on. Erik?
Charlottesville, Virginia, back home. I've got a little martini tonight ahead of dinner. Special gin, too. I'm going to highlight the gin. It was a gift to Ashley. I got to drink it before she did. But it's a special version of Bombay Sapphire that apparently is not available in the United States. A worker brought it back from a trip to London for us. It's a kind of an orange infused Bombay Sapphire. Made a little just dry gin martini with a
I mean, that is as classy as it gets right there. That is fantastic stuff.
Yeah. we got a bottle of Cote d'Aron in the wine decanter right now ahead of dinner. So
there you go.
I think I'm on the opposite side of cocktails tonight. A very, very makeshift, not thought out one, but new location here. Coming to you guys from Denver, Colorado. The apartment just outside of downtown. Started a new job out here a few weeks ago, so made the move. Enjoying the altitude. My golf game is I haven't played around a golf, and I've already gained about 35 yards off the tee. So it's the easiest way to hit the ball longer is just to send it out west a little bit. But sipping on a little. I got a little coffee with a little topper of, Whiskey Acres, my go-to. This is a bourbon that was finished in maple syrup cask. So that's a fun little topper for some coffee. Get a little extra work done tonight. We got a bunch of games this weekend. So busy because once Friday at like 3:00 hits and the hockey game at 7, it's just pure chaos. I'm not going to get any work done. So doing that tonight, but excited to see your guys' faces. It's been too long. Mr. Fontaine, what about you?
Calling in from Newington, Connecticut, and I do not have any sort of cocktail remedy, no special gins, no coffee cocktails. Just got a beer. Just got a Bud Light. It's where the supplies have been decimated over the last few weeks. So we're just on bare minimum with the beers going tonight. So we're just relaxing. Taking it easy. But as you said, Mikey, it's been too long. It is time for us to kind of face the music here and do some self-reflection on our goals for the year. I won't go first, but I know mine weren't very well, even close to being achieved on the golf course. So we'll start with maybe Erik or Mikey, whoever wants to start first with somebody that might have made some legitimate progress on their goals, golf game, etc. this year. Who wants to kick it off?
I'll go first. Just we'll leave the meat for the middle where Erik actually got some shit done. But and I can't think back on my actual goals, but I think they really probably had to deal with trying to play a little bit of high level mid amateur golf, and then also just getting out there and playing some tournaments. Didn't do a whole lot of it. Played in a couple tournaments in the beginning of the spring. And just couldn't get away from like the 74, 75 bug. Like just found myself shooting 2, 3, 4 over par, in most tournaments, which is fine in the grand scheme of things, but, not really getting you much higher. I mean, I think I finished like 18th in a field of 90 and then like 35th in a field of 125 for a couple of 2-day tournaments. And then I shot like a 76 in the U.S. Mid-Am qualifier, but didn't really do a whole heck of much else. That was just kind of a microcosm of finishing up grad school and looking for jobs and trying to be a little bit frugal with both kind of time and also the finances at the current moment. So didn't play a ton of golf, to be perfectly honest. Had a couple good spurts with buddies in Chicago and then back home in Massachusetts. But all I have to say is I think I'm happy with my golf game. I feel like for the lack of practice that I put in, I had a good time on the golf course, shot some good rounds, felt like the game was like in a pretty decent place, even if I like hadn't touched a club in a couple weeks, which is a dangerous place to have your mind, to think you're like know how to play golf when you're not actually practicing. But I think a little disappointed to not shoot some low ones and qualify for really really much. Not that I tried for much, but I think being a little settled in, excited for kind of the winter here in Denver. Stays a little warmer. Usually get some days in the 50s, even in December, January, and February. So be able to hit some golf balls outside kind of 12 months a year. I'm excited about that. And to see kind of what the competitive golf landscape looks out here. Going to have to dial in the wedges, because on the range, the 54-degree wedge goes like 133.
Oh,
so
might have to go to a 62 in the bag and a 50.
Gonna have to dial it in. Gonna have to maybe think about putting a fourth wedge in the bag, manipulating kind of that setup just to kind of tinker with that. But really was happy on the golf course this year. Had a lot of fun with golf. Didn't play as much as kind of the grand analysis of it, but looking forward to next year. Erik, give us a little insight into your game, because a lot of improvement when it comes to competitive golf. You're putting up some scores this year and finding some consistency, and tell us a little bit about that, and tell us kind of what you did to make that happen.
All right, so recapping what my goals were, I think that I had 3 of them. One of them was learn how to properly hit a wedge. One was to qualify for the state am in Virginia, and one was to make the cut at the state mid-am. I believe those were those 3, something along those lines. So we'll kind of go in chronological order here of the summer, because the learn how to properly hit a wedge thing is ongoing. But qualify for the state am. So I played a qualifier, Williamsburg Golf Club, kind of out in Eastern Virginia. Kind of on my drive out there, Mikey and I recorded a little like competitive golf podcast that we're able to put out, and that was kind of just a little bit about a mindset thing. So qualifier was something like 65 guys for 6 spots or something. I ended up shot 1 over and was in a playoff to get in, and came out the first alternate. So I didn't get through immediately through the playoff, but ended up getting into the state amateur as the first alternate, which was exciting. First time I qualified for the state amateur in Virginia, and kind of just being in this like mid-Atlantic, like southern region. There's definitely some really good players in the region. So it was fun to kind of be able to get into that tournament and kind of compare myself to some of these college kids in the local region, and there's definitely some strong mid amateur golf in Virginia as well. So state amateur was at a really cool golf course called Cedar Point Club. It's an old kind of tight golf course, really thick rough, and tiny greens. And kind of Mike, what you said, playing consistently. I played well in the qualifier, and then posted a good score in the first round of the championship. Shot 2 over, ended up I was like in 30th after the first round, something right around there, with 16 guys making the cut of match play after 2 rounds. So needed a really good second round, and shot 77 in the second round, but ultimately was proud of both of the scores, and kind of was in the middle of the pack. Obviously didn't make the cut at the state am, but it was a great experience to kind of be back in that environment of true, real competitive golf. And it kind of carried on towards the end of the summer, playing in the state mid-am, which was a 50 tournament. And in the first round, shot even par in some really tough conditions. Probably one of the proudest scores I've ever posted in a competitive round of golf. I was in 6th place after the first round in a field of 130 players. The guy that ended up winning, the guy that was kind of in first place the whole time, played college golf for Wake Forest and made 1 bogey in 54 holes. So
pretty good.
never really had a chance to compete with him by any means, but it was a really proud kind of moment for me in my current state of golf. Posting that score in the first round. Unfortunately, struggled a little bit in the second and third round. The conditions were pretty nasty all weekend. The wind was blowing like 30 pretty consistently. The greens were really quick, and we played they set up the golf course pretty tough, especially for a mid-amateur event. Played the golf course like almost 7,000 yards every day. And there's some 60-year-olds out there that are hitting it like 220. So they definitely struggle a little bit too. But overall, very proud of the year of competitive golf I had and kind of reaching some of the goals that I had put in place there. And I kind of am going to tie it back a little bit to this mental process of learning how to hit a wedge properly. This just goal of trying to learn how to hit a wedge has kind of carried through my golf game and kind of how to properly hit an iron. And not that I was a bad wedge player by any means or a bad iron player, but there's a difference between a proper golf shot and a good golf shot. And kind of focusing on that in practice this summer, I think went a long ways on the golf course.
Absolutely. And you definitely should be proud. Those are some unreal scores. And like, regardless of like the finish in those events or the rounds after, like it's all mental reps or even the physical reps, obviously too. But like, you can't like flex that muscle until you work it out a little bit. So it's like, you gotta like you probably like emotional energy probably went so much into that first round, like that first time. And it's like hard to like run it back 2-3 days ago.
Yeah. You know, I think a good perspective of kind of like the conditions that weekend in the mid-air. So, you know how when you post a score on a really crazy weather day and the Gin app will the posted score based off of everyone that posted a score at that golf course that day, whatever. So obviously all the scores from each tournament round were posted to the Gin app. The first round 72, there was a 3-stroke adjustment on all the scores posted. And then the third round, there was a 2-stroke adjustment. So conditions were definitely tough. And even though I ended up going 72, 81, 81, shot, 14 over for the tournament. And I came in 27th place of 130 players still. So conditions were tough, and the golf course was set up awesome. It was really fun to kind of grind it out for 54 holes there.
Yeah. And 54 holes is like a whole different monster. It's like one thing, like, you know, you go, all right, I have one really important round, like a qualifier, right? Like I got one day, I got to lock in here 4 or 5 hours, whatever. And then to like go get some sleep and try to do it again and again. And especially when the weather is already like, is like kicking your ass a little bit too, on top of the actual just golf battle. Like it's just, you can't replicate that, right? Like you can't hit range balls to prepare for that. Like you just have to like get your teeth kicked in or every once in a while, or like just like feel what that is like, it like mentally and like emotionally, like exhausting wise. And like then you know, like, okay, like I have a little like idea what to mentally prepare myself for going forward.
Yeah, Matt, and it's like great. Not that we are these exceptional golfers who go out there and shoot, 500 par every single time, but like there's very few times that we step on a golf course and we're like very uncomfortable because we've played enough golf, right? And like you know what it feels like to shoot even par, shoot a couple under, whatever, have a decent round. You don't get like until you're in those competitive golf like situations, that's when you're truly uncomfortable. I mean, I can think on tee shots that it's like you have no idea where this ball is going to go, and on a normal Saturday round, the stuff that doesn't even cross your mind. Like you just get up there, you tee it up, you smack it, you go and you chase and you figure it out. But there's just a million other variables and kind of this level of uncertainty and uncomfortability that just comes with expectations, that comes with a goal to do the best you can and to make yourself proud and make others proud. So it's a different world, and Erik got to see a lot of it this summer, a little more than you and I, but hopefully we're diving back into it soon too.
One last thing one last thing that I'll add on that too, that I kind of hadn't really thought about until just now. So first 2 rounds, I had an early late draw tee times. So I was one of the first groups out in the first round, posted an even par score. Being one of the first groups out, that's always going to be a good score comparatively to what the scores that are already in are. And the rest of the day, Friday, kind of just sitting there looking at the leaderboard, and my score is kind of never moving from that like 5th to 10th range. And I was like, okay, ends up being a really good score for the day. But then the following day, same thing. I've got one of the last tee times of the day, and look at the leaderboard throughout the morning, and my even par score is not moving from kind of the leaderboard, and kind of knowing where I was at standing on the first tee in the second round definitely was a place I've never really been in before. So, and I birdied the first hole of the day, second round too.
It's so weird when you start doing math. Like when you start being like, okay, I'm even the leaders at blank, or even like, say I want to get to X number. Then you're like, okay, I made a birdie. That's one in the right direction. And I was gonna make a bogey. Like shit. Now, like, you start doing this mental math and like projecting. It's like the worst thing you can do, but you can't help yourself because, like you said, you see the leaderboard and you like are like enough that like what number you have realistically in your mind as a goal. And all day you're just doing this like plus minus game in your head. And then eventually you're like, what the like it's the worst thing you can do to actually post a number, but you just can't. It's so hard to like coach yourself out of that, or like train yourself to think otherwise, or like they always the cliche like one shot at a time. Like yeah, like you always take every shot seriously, but like I think what that means more is like, hey, like you can't think about the next, like the number you're at right now, the number you're trying to get to, the bogey you made before, how that impacts your day. Like it's just about like blocking out and like somehow turning all that shit off, because it's the worst thing you can do, but everybody does it. Myself, I did it so bad. We'll get into this in a minute, but I did it so bad this summer. It's unbelievable.
The weight of good play is real. You start playing, so you start shooting some good rounds, have a good start to a round, you can feel the heat. You just like you try to protect it, and it's just there's no way to do it.
Yeah. That first round when I shot even par, I was 3 under through 13 holes. Made it quick right after that.
I think back, I have like this vivid memory of the New England Am like a million years ago now, but I shot like a couple over in the first round, and then I was like 4 under through 8 holes. There was some weather, so I only played 8 holes the second round. I was like 4 under through 8 holes, lights out, and I was like, all of a sudden I was like 7th on the leaderboard. And then I come out the next morning, it's like a shock. Go back to our holes. It's like 7:15 start. The range situation was a disaster, and I plug one in the face of a fairway bunker off the tee on the 9th hole on my first hole, trying to play those last 10 holes. And the weight of all like that good play the night before was just like had pressurized that first hole, and I made a bogey, and I played okay down the stretch, but all I could think about the night before and on that first tee shot was just like how good I had played and how much that meant to me and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough to think about, but I gotta get out there and I got some demons from 4 years ago. This is bad that I'm talking about.
They're there, man. And like I was saying, like the only way you address them is by putting yourself in the situation again, and like or similar situations. You might hard to get the exact thing replicated in golf, but like a similar situation where you like either prove yourself right or wrong, however you want to say it, where you go and you just kind of operate in a better way because hey, don't think this way, let's try something different. And usually that's half the battle, is like you get in your own way. Like this year I played in like the only real stroke play event I played in was the club championship up here, and they do 36 holes one day, 18 the next, all stroke, the full thing. And for me, that was like the first time in a really long time I played a stroke play event, like true stroke play. And it like I just couldn't stop like being like, every time I leave myself 4 feet, I'm like, God damn it. Like, just like all this, and you just, when everything has to go in the hole, you just think differently. Like I played the same course 400 times this summer. And all of a sudden, now that every shot counts, I'm like, oh, let's not go there. It's like I never think about over there when I'm playing, like just stupid shit like that. And like when everything has to go in the hole, you just like you get in your own way, or like you just have to like do it more often to train yourself, like flex that muscle, work out that muscle to like get you in the right mindset. Cause like I've done it before, obviously playing in college. It's just like I probably haven't done it since college where it's like more than an 18 hole window without having like a partner or it being like a match or whatever else, like match play style or whatever. So it's just there's different monsters of like true competitive golf that you have to play competitive golf to get better at and like learn about yourself and like how you handle them in order to like kind of coach yourself, teach yourself, etc. How to be better at it. It's wild west out there.
So how are you going to do that better next year, Matt?
I'm just gonna like remind myself that I've played this course a million times and just be aggressive instead of like being so afraid to make a bogey. Like I'm gonna make bogeys. Like just let's not make the bogeys into doubles and triples because you're upset that you're making a bogey. Like I made more big numbers in the 54 holes than I did the other 1,000 holes I played of golf this summer. I had 2 triples and like 4 doubles in 3 rounds. I only had like 2 actual bogeys. I don't even think I lost the ball. Nightmare.
On that note too, one thing I think that like the same note of kind of being in the situation before and kind of learning from past experiences, but first round of the state am shot 74. I was 3 over through 2 holes.
Yeah.
Yep. And I was like, oh fuck, what? Like I'm about to shoot 85, blah, 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 blah. And ended up playing the next 16 holes 1 under. And all summer, no matter it was a casual round or whatever, I kind of always kind of went back to that in my head. I was like, all right, bogey the first hole, bogey the first 2 holes. It's all right. You were 3 over through 2 holes in the state am and shot 2 over. So
right.
Mm-hmm.
It's in there, and like sometimes you just have to prove it to yourself. It's weird.
Right. Like, bogeys happen, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Double bogeys happen. Triple bogeys happen.
You like to avoid them, but yeah, they happen.
Yeah, I think too, and I mean, obviously we're not like such great golfers that we do this all the time, but like we need to break through the mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna go out here and like make some bogeys, make a double, make 3 or 4 birdies. Like, why can't I go make 8 birdies today?
Yeah.
So I think, and you have that mindset and okay, well, like you might go make 5 or 6 that day. And like, you got to do a lot of bad things to not shoot a good round when you make 5 or 6 birdies.
Right. And I think that's the key, right? Like, yes, the bad things can happen, but like, why can't you go make 6 birdies? Like we all are very capable of doing that. So it's like, you got to just focus your mind on like obviously both are very possible, but like focus your mind a little bit on the more positive side of that and be like, hey, let's go make 6 today. Like we make 6 birdies. Don't really care what happens the other 12 holes, right? Like you said, it's gonna be hard to shoot a bad round with 6 birdies because if you're making 6 birdies, probably swinging it pretty well, rolling it well, whatever you got to do to kind of get through the other 12 holes. So it's so much more mental because for the first time in a long time, like I feel like in college or even like in my immediate after college, like competitive golf years, it was always like, all right, I need to go work on this. I need to putt better. I need to whatever. Like I left the club championship after shooting like 77, 77, 81, being like, I literally just need to have a mental coach on the course with me. Like, it's just like, there's no bad swings. Like, I mean, obviously I made bad swings, but there's no like repeating like bad trend or swing or whatever in my brain. It was just like, or in my game, it was just like there's nothing I need to go work on the range right now. Like, it's just like, I need to just manage like my mentality, my golf game, the court. Like I just need to manage things better. Like all the swings were there, all the shots are there. It wasn't like I need to go pound balls and learn how to hit a cut or something like that. Like I was hitting the shots I needed to hit. It just was the lack of consistency, which I guess could come from the range, and then like compounding. Like, okay, you made a bad swing, just make a bogey, or at worst, or like give yourself a chance for the par and make it a bogey. Let's not like continue like let's not make 4 bad decisions in a row and walk away with an 8 here. Like I did that like twice, like just it all comes down to like shit like that when you get in like the competitive golf world. That like again, that stuff doesn't happen when you play Saturdays with your buddies because you're wired differently when you're having fun and golfing versus like, holy shit, this is competitive. Like everything counts.
Golf is just nuts in general. I mean, I'm thinking back now in like Florida last year where I hadn't like really swung that. I mean, I hit some balls and stuff, but play whatever the first day. And then day two, I was like 7 under through 14. And I was like, where has this come from? So, and that didn't come from practice. It didn't come from my tremendous ability. It just like happened one day. So I just don't know. Like, there's not this linear
Right.
reason or like this equation that's like, this is what's going to produce that result. I mean, hard work, yes, but if you're not like really, really working at it every day and working towards some of this stuff, like the good and the bad are going to happen.
Right.
Like, and even when you practice, the good and the bad happen, but you just like can't get too high or too low because it happens. So I think I was happy with that this year. Like, I think I shot like 84 one day, and I can't remember the last time I shot 84. And then the next day, I think I shot 70. So it's just like, just go have fun and enjoy it and know that it's in there at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where we're all at. Erik, thank you for sharing your summer goals. At least somebody made some progress, qualified for some serious events, got some legitimate reps, worked at it, got better, and has a lot to take away from this year and kind of roll that momentum into next year.
Yeah, we're gonna try for sure. I guess I got to start working on goals for next year.
Yep.
Definitely good thing to start thinking about. You can never start too soon on, got to prepare. You got to be ready. You got to have something to aim at this winter.
I'm gonna stick with the proper theme and maybe just move it up a little bit. Learn how to like properly hit a 3-wood off the deck.
Okay.
Maybe something like that.
That's a tough one.
I wanna work in the 3-wood off the tee where you just like make your own little tee and hit that no spinner that just laser beam.
Mike, I think I remember you doing that with the driver on number 11 at Veterans a couple times.
Just beat down on one and hit a sweeper.
I mean, I want to hit it straight. I just don't want to hit it anywhere. I just don't want to hit it up in the air.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think I've gotten less flexible, so I don't quite have the hitch at the top because I just can't get to that position. So that's good.
However it works. I find that a lot of times when I'm like, when I'm fresh, like going back into golf for the first time in a week or so, where I haven't stretched those kind of muscles and stuff, I'm a little tight or whatever. Compacts the swing a little bit. Things are a little simpler. I might not have the speed, but I find the center of the club face a lot.
Yep.
Have a great evening, gentlemen.
All right, Erik. Cheers.
All right, see you, Erik.
All right, Mike. I think enough about our golf games and the
it's not
the mediocrity, the mediocrity that we are right now. But I think it's time to just kind of put a bow on PGA Tour season. I think we did our live stuff last time, so we don't have to relate everything to that. But I think it's worth just kind of highlighting, a lot changed in kind of the landscape of golf besides live, just like who. Like Scotty Scheffler went from 0 wins to 4 wins this year, or 5, and one of those being a major, another a WGC. He had a great month. Will Zalatoris, all these top 5s in majors again. You got, Morikawa and like Hovland just fading into the darkness a little bit for the better half of the year. Xander racking up wins now. There's a lot of different ways you can go with this, but I guess we'll start with who surprised you the most this season, either a good or a bad, or maybe if you have one on each side of the spectrum, we can talk about that too.
Yeah. I'll kind of give 2 goods. And I'm, don't want to toot my own horn here, but called early last year and even into the previous year that I thought Cam Young was going to be a superstar, and kind of has solidified himself in the top 20 in the world. Won a bunch in the Corn Ferry the year prior, and just, I don't know, an exceptionally built golf swing. And like, it's hard to imagine that things go wrong with how solid and powerful his swing is. So excited to kind of see what he does looking forward. So that was a nice surprise that happened. And then I really enjoyed the Tony Finau kind of turnaround at the end of the year. a guy that's been on the PGA Tour for like almost 10 years now, but really came into his own, back-to-back wins. We don't have to talk, I mean, not great fields in Detroit and Minneapolis, but to get 2 wins, to win the playoffs last year, to play well at the President's Cup, I think he's just a really likable human being, and it's fun to watch him play golf. Another really, interesting and effective golf swing. I think he's one. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's like 6'5" and he's huge, so he creates a large arc without trying. But something that a lot of people can learn from. You don't have to take this big, huge turn to generate speed. If you're efficient in what you do, you can play really good golf. And obviously, figured out how to putt this year, and make it happen. But those are kind of my two nice surprises. And I think they're 16th and 17th in the world right now. So those are kind of my two goods. But before I get into the disappointments, what about for you?
Yeah, I think, the thing about Finau's wins for me is that it validates a lot of other good golf he played where he didn't get a win. Like he was always
Masters and things like
he
that.
was always the guy that never can get it done, whatever. But now that he gets a couple wins, regardless of the field, they're almost not even the important part. It's just like, hey, like all that other golf, like that wasn't just, oh, he had a good week. Like, he's a PGA Tour winner, I think 3 times now, because he did win the Puerto Rico a long time ago or whatever, but it's 4 times because he won Liberty National last year too. So, it just validates the body of work when you throw a couple full wins in there versus you don't feel like you're kind of getting these like half points or participation trophies for coming in 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever, even though that obviously has value when you beat 150 out of 156, like there's value in that, so it just validates kind of how good of a golfer he's been for a long time to finally just kind of break through and get some done. And in the same vein, I think one of my more, like we talked about in the middle of this year, is Xander Schauffele. He won the Zurich with Pat Cantlay, right? Yeah. We talked a lot about how they're both at a point in their careers where do they become Ricky Fowler and like just they played so good for so long, couldn't get through, end up with like 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins, and just never feel like they reach their full potential because of how good they both are. And they just, never break through in the majors or whatever. So he was at that point, and I think after that, he rattled off 2 wins and another dominant President's Cup with the Travelers, the Scottish Open, and, another strong finish in another major. So it's like, for me, that was, Xander Schauffele this year, I felt for him, it was time to like start racking up the wins and like solidify yourself as a top 10 guy in the world. Like the talent's been there and everybody knows it's kind of there, but he never kind of closes the door when he's given the chance to win and whatever else. So for me, that I think stood out a lot of just like, hey, okay, like he's got it in him to close out a golf tournament, to win a golf tournament from behind, whatever he needs to do, go head to head with his buddy Cantlay at the Travelers and, kind of stare him down and get the job done. So he's always played so well, and especially in like the team events now, like obviously when we watch President's Cup, his record is crazy, him and Cantlay. But it's nice to see him get the wins, and that just gives me confidence for him going into next year's, realm of majors. Like, hey, like we don't have to be like, okay, Xander, he's a great golfer, but he doesn't show up in majors, or, he's not going to get it done in majors. I shouldn't say he doesn't show up. He makes all the cuts, but now I think it's like, okay, like Xander can go snag one of these, like it's a little different vibe once you start putting wins and, accumulating wins as with the talent that he has to become a potential future Hall of Fame golfer. Like I think he has the skill to do that. So that was, outside of the obvious Scheffler, like that was one of my guys. I was like, hey, like kind of got to either take this and turn it up a gear, or you're going to slowly start drifting back into neutral. So
I think you make a good point. Like, I mean, I think Cantlay probably turned that corner last year, winning the FedEx Cup, and Xander was kind of waiting on that. And I think if you had asked this question, 15 months ago, right, our answer would have been like Patrick Cantlay or Xander Schauffele. Either way, like I don't know, are they going to be Hall of Fame guys? Are they going to be 10-win guys? And I think that has changed dramatically. I mean, right. I would air Patrick Cantlay on a 20-win career closer to that than a 10-win career at the moment. I don't know how many times he's won, but I think he's probably in the 7 or 8 range now. great. I think Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele could win 15 plus times in two majors.
Absolutely.
That is not out of the question. That's more probable, probably.
Absolutely. And it's because, like you said, 15 months ago, we knew you could, we watch a ton of golf. We could see that they are in that upper echelon of talent and hit the shots and play the game and whatever. But when kind of push came to shove and the opportunities they were having at that time in their careers, they would just kind of end up, not coming out, like kind of stumble out of the gates, come out in neutral, whatever you want to call it, just find a way to not get it done. And now that they've, between Cantlay's end of last season kind of heater and Xander's like middle of the year, kind of towards the end of this season, just racking up a couple wins, and they both obviously will play together for the Zurich win. Like that all adds up, and like you have to do that like every year in and year out. Like find a way to win once or twice. Like that's, we give so much praise to the guy like DJ who's won every year the last 20 years or whatever. Every time he's been, ever since he's been on tour, like that's how you become Hall of Famers. Like you don't have to win every major. You don't have to win, whatever, but like you just got to find a way to just win when you don't have your best stuff. And the only way you can get better at doing that is like putting yourself in situations and like getting it done more often. Like, and I think both of them, like you said, have made that turn where it's like, it's more probable for the 15 wins in Hall of Fame than not now, I would think is like where they'd fall into. I think one of my biggest disappointments is a guy no, that's just recency bias. I won't throw him in a book. But like, I was gonna say Billy Horschel, but he had a good year. He just sucked in the President's Cup. I think like honestly, even before the live stuff, like DJ and Brooks.
Yeah,
I don't know if they were injured this year, but like DJ, I just don't understand how you go from 15 months ago again, like when he won the November Masters at Augusta. He had also won like 4 other things that fall. Like it was like, how is this guy ever like not going to win? Like he's going to be the third top 3 player in the world forever. And just kind of, I don't know. He just didn't have it this year. Maybe it was the live stuff on his mind and, he's just distracted, whatever. But Brooks the same way. Brooks played really well in the majors last year. Kind of always does this injury kind of in and out thing or whatever. But he just didn't show up in any of the majors this year, even before the live stuff. And I just expected him to do what he always does in majors and find a way to get himself in contention come at least Saturday and see what happens Saturday. But like he just was a non-story all year, which is, again, live aside. I mean, they played in all the big events, live or not. So it's like they just didn't have it. I don't know if it was a distraction for them or if they just, Brooks might still be injured. I don't know. DJ might not care anymore because he won his Masters in 2020. Maybe that was what he was chasing. But I expect those guys are just such staples, and especially in the big events. And I just got nothing out of them this year. And then I think my last one I'll bring up is just Rahm. Just wasn't. I just feel like he, for the last 18 months of golf he's played, he's gotten like such little out of it for how exceptionally well he's played. And I think that, I don't know. I mean, he's obviously still so good and so talented. He can have a year next year that we're talking about this Cantlay and Xander stuff and put together 3-4 wins. I mean, he's so good. He can do whatever he wants. But I just was, again, I was waiting for him. Like, hey, he's Jon Rahm. He's going to show up. And, I know he won the Mexico Open or whatever, but nobody was there. I just expect him in the majors to just be more of a factor. And he just kind of got stuck in neutral this year for some reason. It wasn't awful. Like, he wasn't missing cuts and stuff, but he didn't have the, he didn't show the form that he did when he won the US Open in 2021. And even when he wasn't winning in 2021, just playing just superior golf. He just didn't seem to have it this year, but I don't know. Who's your guy on the other end of the spectrum?
And I just want to close the note on Rahm too, because I think he hasn't quite responded from getting COVID at Memorial, not winning that, and that probably made him not win the FedEx Cup because Cantlay won that instead.
Yep.
I don't know who ended up winning Player of the Year, but I think it was like between them. So like he's getting like the least out of everything.
Yes.
And I don't know. And disappointing year for sure. The most disappointing thing for me was I think if Hideki Matsuyama didn't have this injury bug, we might have had a pretty prolific year. Guy won twice, won Zozo and Sony early in the year after winning the Masters the previous, April. We could have had a 4-win, 3, 4, 5-win season in a heartbeat this year.
Yeah.
You know, a win in October 2021 and a January 22. That usually, I mean, for the best in the world, that's like floodgates player of the year to get two on the slate before the real players even show up.
Yeah.
So I think he pretty much stayed still. I think he's like 18th, 19th, 20th in the world, pretty much where he was to start last year. Thought, and I was riding him high this year. I mean, I thought he was a top 5 player in the world if he doesn't get injured this year and kind of maybe has a chance to win another major. And I think until he gets like out of this injury bug, I don't think we're going to see, him at his full strength or full capabilities. So that's something I'm kind of keeping my eye on moving forward, but kind of the year that could have been for Matsuyama.
Yeah, I agree. And he is it his wrist still, or is it something else now? Because he
I
always
think
has
it's
issues
like,
with that, but
wrist or shoulder or something like that.
it's a shame because he is just one of the most premium ball strikers you're ever going to see out there. And
Yep.
it's just like it's tough when he's not at full go and you can't watch him just flag irons all over the place because it's fun to watch when he plays well. And plus, I just love you can't not root for him. Like he's such a good guy to root for. Like it's just I love watching Hideki do well. So I agree. That was that again the year that could have been. I think we got gypped on that one for sure. Um, next on the agenda here for the PGA Tour season recap. Saying all that, these guys broke out. These guys kind of disappointed. Who are you circling to have like a big year next year? Whether it's a Corn Ferry guy kind of pulling a Cam Young and solidifying himself and making all these teams and whatnot, or the Scotty Scheffler story is like Will Zalatoris or Cam Young or some of these other guys that are playing superior golf, but maybe not racking up wins yet, or is one of them going to make a jump? What are you looking out for in 2023?
Yeah. And I'm kind of pulling up the official world golf rankings. I think a couple international guys that jump out at me who have kind of solidified themselves on tour, but maybe I think jump up into maybe top 30, top 50 range. Sebastian Munoz and Cam Davis, I think maybe both have a chance to be there at the end of the year. Guys that make the FedEx Cup finals and kind of looking like that. And then I think the obvious choice, right? Like Sahith Theegala. I mean, he guy looked like a top 10 player in the world some weeks. So interested to kind of see what he does. And then also kind of, I'm excited to follow kind of the PGA Tour U, right? The people that that get direct access to Corn Ferry, right? And then see, that's kind of on my peripherals. Like, does one of those studs from college take that status and go win 3 times this year? Or so that's kind of my non PGA Tour kind of auxiliary coverage, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, those are. I mean, both Munoz and Cam Davis, like they showed out pretty well in the Presidents Cup, so it definitely got my attention. Like Munoz, he can take it deep, man. I think he's just gotta.
He covers the shit out of it.
He's got to find the mentality to get that 4th round 74 out of him, and I think he's going to find himself winning or contending a lot more because it seems like once a month you'll see Munoz like 8 under first day, like something like that, where it's like. And then then he falls up with a 74 and then he shoots 67 on the weekend. It's just like he's one good round away from like being there all the time, it feels like. I'm doing the same thing as you did. I'm just looking up and down the world golf rankings here. I mean, I feel like Matt Fitzpatrick, I know he won the US Open, but he never really fell back after that though. So like I'm expecting him to just roll with that and have a really, really good spring, whether it's Bay Hill or, the match play. I don't know, one of those, and maybe we'll see what he can do at Augusta with this new kind of pop in the bat. But he impressed me a ton this year. Like obviously the US Open was super impressive, but it seemed like before, after, and all the way through the end of the year, like even in some of the Euro Tour events that have been going on or DP World Tour events that have been going on the last month or so, like just so impressed with what he's doing. So I think he's gonna like rattle off a few next year, whether it's majors or not. I don't, we'll see. But I think he wins over 2 times next year. And I just think he's trending in that direction and hopefully holds it together this offseason. But he seems to be doing all the right things and finally kind of found his groove out there. And we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, really premium player for a long time. Guy that's continued to get status on the PGA Tour, like playing half here and half in Europe. So I think the way he's kind of dedicated himself the last probably 4 or 5 years over here has paid dividends. And yeah, I mean, he's got a game. He plays, travels anywhere. You don't win a U.S. Open by happenstance. So excited to see what he does on some of the tougher tracks. Mm-hmm. Agreed. I think the Bay Hills that are firm and fast suit his game well. And for some reason the English have kind of a little bit of a monopoly on Bay Hill. They seem to get it done a little bit more than others.
Yeah. Yes, they do. But we'll wrap here. Last question. Favorite major this year and a little reason why. Because let's see, just to run through it quickly. Scotty at Augusta, JT at Southern Hills, Matt Fitzpatrick at Brookline, and then Cam Smith at St. Andrews. Pretty damn good lineup to pick from. We've been blessed the last 3 years, honestly. It's all been just star-studded stuff. But
yeah, I would say I think coupling the way he won, the venue, I think Matt Fitzpatrick's win at the U.S. Open was probably the most fun for me to watch. Also, being at the country club and, being in Massachusetts and kind of having a little bit of familiarity, or at least proximity familiarity of that type of golf and kind of the, how those golf courses were built. To hit that shot on 18 out of the bunker, after probably hitting, one of the few poor shots he hit all day was the 18th tee ball. To take that on, I mean, that could have been a Mito Pereira hit the lip and make a double and not even be in a playoff.
Mm-hmm.
So that was on the radar there. But yeah, I thought the venue was spectacular. I thought really, really cool story to see him, 9 years after winning the USAM at Brookline, get it done at the US Open. Pretty cool full circle stuff. Yeah. And to your point previously, potentially a budding superstar. So
yeah, that was a special one. That storyline was pretty crazy. How he stayed with the same family he stayed with as an amateur and all this stuff. That was a pretty good storybook ending to that week. I'm gonna go kind of against the chalk here. I think St. Andrews, anytime it opens there, those are always just special. But the
weekend was kind of a blur in my brain because I think they went backwards and then it's kind of a little jumbled in my mind.
Yeah, it is always tough, the time difference too. It's just out of your normal routine, especially we had all East Coast time zones for the other ones, I think, or Southern Hills is an hour off, but everything else is East Coast time zone. And then, then you just kind of throw the wrench in for that major. But I'm going to go just because I was most surprised by this one, I think, was Southern Hills. I don't remember that golf course from when Tiger played in 2007 and won there. I just obviously wasn't watching golf as fanatically as I do now then. And I was so impressed with that golf course, watching that the variety of shots, the variety of elevation, the length, the greens, the this, that, the other thing. It was really cool to watch, which you don't usually get a lot without context at a golf course. Augusta is the best to watch because every hole without, how challenging the hole is without the announcers having to tell you and make this story for you. Where at Southern Hills, it was, whether it was visually obvious to me or whatever, I just loved watching that. And I'm also a huge JT guy. So him finding a way to get his second major when he's kind of been on the schneid since 2017, playing unbelievable golf, but not showing up in majors really, for him to win with, his B game, whatever you want to call it. Like, that's the stuff that those guys, the Jordan Spieth, the Brookses, the DJs, that's the stuff that those guys do to make them great and multiple major winners, Hall of Famers, etc. So, and JT being, what is he, 28, 29,
I think
somewhere in
28.
there. So, having minimum 10 more years ahead of him, barring any kind of health issues or injury setbacks, like, you got to get it. You just got to get him when you get a chance. And he was there after Friday, kind of squandered Saturday, and just stayed in it and played a great round Sunday. Obviously Mito kind of let that one slip on 18, but the moment came to him and he got it done. I mean, I think I was listening. Max Homa said this week, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago after he won, just saying like Tiger and Jack won so many times because they never like ejected. They just hung around. Like, if they had a lead, they ran with it. But if they were in the mix, they just kept themselves in the mix at all times. And sometimes just being up on that leaderboard, your name there, just not letting people run away and hide by kind of taking yourself out of it. You get more opportunities. You're applying pressure without really doing much, even if you're not in their group, etc. And I think JT, like, with all the talent he has and he wins so many other events, I think he just needed you got to take the lid off the basket again. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you got to just see one go through the hoop or see that. Like, even if you know that that's true in your mind, like, he wins all the time. He knows he just has to hang around, whatever. Sometimes you just need it. You need a bounce to go your way to get that little self-belief back. And I think he's another guy that, I think he's on a different path than Xander just by how hot of a start he's off to in his career. But he went 4 or 5 years between majors, and like now it's like, okay, I'm super excited to see what he does at Augusta next year and wherever the other majors are, like, because it's like, is he going to disappear on us again, or is he going to, hey, I got one again. I realize I just need to be patient with myself, whatever, when I'm in these things, and like take off and go. Cause I think he's just, he's number 3 or 4 in the world. And I don't see him going anywhere from that range without like a crazy injury or something going back. So I'm a huge JT fan. That one just stood out to me. The golf course, I was so impressed with it and surprised by it because I had no expectations. And then just the fact that JT and Willie Z are in a playoff, and the golf shots that JT and just pulled off, like, perfectly executed 3 holes in a row, birdie, 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 see you later. Thank you. Like, it's nice to, again, he could have gotten to that playoff and squandered yet another opportunity, but he was like, hey, I kind of squandered away what I could. I'm somehow still in this thing. Like, I'm going to go make the most of it in this 3-hole playoff against the guy who's riding the hot hand coming right off the golf course, and just boom, 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 execute. And I was impressed. I'm a big JT guy. So I love seeing him kind of just get back in the world of majors, because it was a little bleak for the last couple of years.
Yeah. And I feel like it's, his journey has been unique in the fact that, like, do you remember like 10 years ago when he first showed up on like a PGA Tour leaderboard, and he was like, all they could talk about was like, oh, there's a guy who's 130 pounds, murders the ball.
Yeah.
That is like we don't even talk about his distance as being like a thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So he's clearly just rounded into, like, I mean, one of the best wedge players in the world, unbelievable iron play, and just like as fiery as it gets from a competitor standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has his moments where he sounds a little arrogant and he, pushes some people off in the wrong direction. But for the most part, I think he's got a lot of fans. He's got a lot of people that, are pulling for him on a weekly basis, including yourself, including me. So firmly, has supplanted himself as, like you're talking about, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, the faces of golf at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Agree 100%. It's exciting to see kind of those guys just start playing well this year. Like, obviously Rory, we didn't really talk about him because I've talked about him all year, I feel like, so I'll let him slide.
He's fucking good at golf though.
Yeah, I'll be placing some futures on him going just to, just because I can't miss it now if he ends up going through next year and winning one of these 4 majors or whatever it is. I'll be kicking myself if I miss out after hitting him on every single one this year and being this close every fucking time. But Yeah. Any other closing thoughts on, your golf season, PGA Tour season, whatever?
No, nothing of note.
Alrighty. Well,
I enjoyed going out there and playing. Hopefully our listeners are doing the same, whether you're shooting 3 under or 98, who cares?
exactly.
Go have some fun, get better, and go for it.
Absolutely. Just be out there getting the reps in, enjoying the fresh air. Only a few more weeks left if you're one of our New England listeners of, tolerable golf weather before it gets a little too chilly to be out there. So cheers, Michael. Enjoy.
Yep.
Always a pleasure.
Yep. See you, bud.
Yep.